Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Giving honor to God, respected Superintendent Dr. Hart, school board members, administration, faculty, family and friends, and most of all, the class of 2014. It is an honor to speak to you on this special occasion. The greatest thing about Tatum is that there are so many people with completely different but amazing talents. I may be ranked number one in the class, but I am certainly not the only person who is number one. There are people sitting before me who are artists, dancers, singers, actors, musicians, and athletes. There are others who inspire to go into international relations, entrepreneurs, teachers, and the list goes on. Our classes has taken part and accomplished several things. Our basketball team was state finalists. Our boys track team was runner-up. Our girls track team were state qualifiers. The band received first division in concert and siren. Our girls basketball team was regional semifinalists. Our one-woman swim team was a state qualifier. The volleyball, softball, basketball, baseball, and football team all went to playoffs. Our one-act play was an alternate for state. The boys soccer team was second in the Bobcat International Tournament. Our girls soccer team fought hard against 5A schools, and I know they will be ready for UIL next year. The choir team had 3 state qualifiers, and we have two people going to fight for our country. Miss Jacqueline Austin is going to the Army National Guard, and Mr. Lawson Keeney is going to the Air Force. All of these accomplishments did not just happen. There was much hard work and dedication. In the world of chaos we live today, I am reminded of a poem which Kipling wrote. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good or talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up worn out too. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and whisk it on one turn and pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginning, and never read the birds about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve long after they're gone, and hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, when if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can feel that unforgiving minute with 60 seconds of distant run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man. It is absolutely vital to remember that the end of our high school is simply the end of our high school. It is a stepping stone from one end of life to the next. It is far better to see it as one beginning among what inevitably will be a series of beginnings in our young lives. No matter what your future plans may be, let the ensuing success inflate your happiness level, and never settle for what you are not overjoyed with. It is these experiences that will shape and truly remarkable years of your life. Though we are young, there is still no coin-operated machine that if you put a quarter in it will produce 25 minutes worth of wisdom or any other treasure gift. We have to go by the way of wilderness. Job 32:9 says, great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. An anonymous writer wrote these words, I am young enough to have joys and sorrows, deep longings and happy dreams, and many, many problems. But old enough to know there is a cause for every joy, a cure for every sorrow, a solution for every problem, and fulfillment for every aspiration. I am young enough to desire success, but old enough to know it should never destroy hearts or character. I am young enough to want money, but old enough to know that true wealth consists not in abundance of things one possesses. I am young enough to covet fame, but old enough to know that better than fame is the joy of spending oneself in self-forgetfulness, loving service. I am young enough to have a good time, but old enough to know one cannot have a good time if pleasure-seeking is one's purpose. I am young enough to be enthusiastic over people and things, but old enough to not let any enthusiasm run away with me. I am young enough to love to play, but old enough to have learned that most fun is having a hard task and seeing it courageously through. I am young enough to want to be beautiful, but old enough to know that true beauty comes from within. I am young enough to seek far and wide for the truth, but old enough to know that it's the most often found in being faithful to the task in hand. I am young enough to make many mistakes, but old enough to learn the lessons, forget the experience, and pass on to better things. I am young enough to dread pain, sorrow, misfortune, but old enough to be grateful for the chastening, melting influence. I'm young enough to be long for happiness, but old enough to know it tarries longest when we seek us less. I am young enough to crave true friends, but old enough to appreciate them when I find them. I'm young enough to believe passionately in goodness of the human heart, but old enough to keep that faith regardless of some disillusion. I'm young enough to know the meaning of love, but old enough to realize it's life's most precious possession. I'm young enough to have faith in God, in His goodness, in His loving care over me, in His wise and beautiful plan for my life, but old enough to value this faith as the thing that gives life purpose and makes it worth living. Finally, I would like to thank all the people who have made a difference and influence in our lives to get us this far. To our teachers, counselors, and principals for all the time and dedication you have devoted to us. A special thanks to my family and church for being behind me, and particularly my mother and father. You have been there with me through every step and through countless hours of academics, athletics, band, and other things, through the good times and some of the worst and most disappointing moments, and helping me to keep God first, persevere, and overcome them. And most importantly, the greatest thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In closing, I would like to say to my senior class, as you begin this journey, there are going to be some triumphs and disasters. But remember, Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose." So I say to you, congratulations, goodbye, and Godspeed. Thank you.